Hello, and welcome to my spoiler review of Terminator Dark Fate, where, fair warning, I'm mostly going to complain about the first 10 minutes of the movie. They're so bad, and the movie deserves to be torn apart for those first 10 minutes. But to be fair, I want to acknowledge that I've noticed some people, in fact, quite a few people, defending this movie, saying, hey, at least it's the best since T2. Like that's some trick. I mean, look, I'm trying to be understanding here because even though I'm so insulted as a Terminator fan, but I get how sometimes a movie doesn't have to be amazing to be fun. I've defended a number of those types of movies myself. But the storytelling here, as we're going to go over, is so sloppy. I mean, I'm going to fix it for you and point out all the holes, and it didn't take me very long, and I'm doing it for free. Imagine if, you know, James Cameron and Tim Miller, the paychecks they're pulling down for this. There's a big movie studio here. Somebody do the work, right? James Cameron. I mean, I have to say this makes me think a little bit less of James Cameron, because he's not supposed to make these kinds of mistakes. Like, he's Mr. Story. All right, so anyway, the first 10 minutes, I feel, just destroy this movie. And I don't see, to be honest with you, how a true Terminator fan can defend it. And I'd be curious to see some of you maybe try down below. But listen to what I have to say first. Because, boy, again, I'm going to tear this thing apart. I'm going to terminate it. All right, so I can't believe, also, this is also, I think, really uncool of James Cameron, that he teased the return of Edward Furlong out of Comic-Con. I mean, Edward Furlong, by the way, is not only still alive, but kind of acting, so he could have returned. But instead, it's a CGI version of young John Connor, who gets gunned down, again in the first 10 minutes of the movie, at a resort in Guatemala by another T800. It's so insulting and so dumb, I'm not even sure where to start, but this is where I decided to. All right, so first off, no matter how amazing the de-aging VFX are, and it's amazing here, they did a very good job. I was like, whoa, that looks just like John Connor and Sarah Connor, and kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He looked a little rubbery, a little action figure-y. But anyway, I don't love seeing a tween innocently trying to talk to a girl at the bar. Classic John Connor. I loved it. As his mother relaxes at a table nearby, get gunned down. Like, that was really bad, right? Especially since I got so emotionally connected not only to John Connor as a character in T2, but into keeping him safe. So Sarah Connor not only failed, but I felt like I failed. And I felt like they cheated because it made no sense that this other T800 was still wandering around. So Sarah Connor's like, little did we know they had a backup plan. Skynet had a backup plan. And even though Skynet in the future, of course, had been stopped, this thing was still back there because it was sent back as a backup before we eradicated the future or terminated the future, right? So anyway, that also makes no sense because if in T2, Skynet sent their top model, a T1000, to kill John, why wouldn't they send another T1000 as the backup instead of an older model? It's like as dumb as sending, I love Key of Awesome, you might recall that YouTube channel, had a fabulous comedy sketch about why would you send a Terminator with an Austrian accent to America to complete a mission. So like, who should back up this advanced Terminator? I know, the older model. It's so stupid. I mean, look, I understand that it needed to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger because he's in the movie, right? But a T1000 can look like anything. So why didn't Arnie just upgrade to playing a T1000? That seems like an easy sell to him in the room, right? How'd you like to have even cooler, amazing action sequences? I mean, the T1000 could just realize that as the T800, he can get closer to John because of their bond from T2. And then he just decides, I guess, to keep that shape because, again, Arnold Schwarzenegger wants to be in the movie. And, should. He is the franchise, along with Linda Hamilton. And I feel John Connor. Those three are the franchise. And we're going to get to the Dysons in just a moment, who I also feel should have been included. But anyway, also, where was this T800 all this time when it was sent back? Was it stuck in some corner like a toy and then someone finally, thankfully, turned it around, right? And also, if it is a T800, then doesn't that mean that, damn it, there's now a chip in the past yet again, right? Wasn't the whole point of the sad, sad ending of T2 to get rid of all the chips so that Skynet could never be started? Well, here's another one, right? The exact chip that they needed. So Skynet could either come about just as the way it always did. Or you know what would be cool? Maybe this T800, after completing his mission with a bunch of time to kill, decides, hey, I'll start Skynet myself and bring about my robotic brethren, instead of entering a sexless marriage and becoming stepfather to a human. That was like such a weird, it was funny, but it was just like, it was like sacrificing the story overall for a couple of jokes in the short run. There are just countless directions they could have gone in after T2 that don't crap all over T2 like these choices do. And speaking again of T2, as you know, it's time to talk about the Dysons. You know who else didn't die in that movie? Miles Dyson's widow and his son Dani, who also had an affinity for machines, as James Cameron went through a lot of work to set up, right? And they know they're the only other people on the face of the earth besides Sarah and John Connor who know of the fate avoided by their father's Miles's heroic sacrifice. So you'd think Sarah would have kept in touch, right? I mean, there's a surrogate son. If Connor gets killed, why doesn't she be like, I'd like to spend some time with Miles, please? I also felt it was a missed opportunity that Sarah's military contact late in the film wasn't Dani Dyson. I kept looking at his name tag. I was like, Dani, is that you? And then they said his name and I forgot what it was. But I was just like, how is that not Dani? How did you guys miss that opportunity to tie in and not have another tie-in? I mean, of all the people Sarah would keep in touch with, wouldn't it be Dani Dyson? I mean, I don't know. Many of you might be like, oh, but actually Dani Dyson changed his name. But to hide from who? Because they eradicated Skynet. They changed that future. So it was so stupid. All right, now let's talk about Legion, which is just Skynet by another name. It even comes about the exact same way by cyber warfare. What about the commentary at the beginning of the movie about jobs being taken over by robots, artificial intelligence? And by the way, where's the Elon Musk cameo, since he's always tweeting about the very real dangers of AI? And you know Elon Musk would totally do a Terminator cameo. Again, what a missed opportunity. I'm just thinking of this stuff off the top of my head. Well, when I was writing the notes. But also, I gotta say, for as much as this movie pats itself on the back for making Dani not the womb of the future savior, but the savior herself, she's not future Mary, she's future Jesus. Grace's motivations, I did like that Mackenzie Davis's character was named Grace. Her motivations to rescue Dani are kind of because Dani is her de facto mom in the future. She's not like, you were a great leader and we can't do this without you. She was like, stepmom. So I was like, it's kind of the same thing. I also felt Dani, as sweet as she is, and probably because of that, made for one of the least convincing military leaders I've ever seen. And Natalia Reyes, with all due respect, is basically Latina Mila Kunis. And I think Mila Kunis is very talented, and she's great in comedies, but she also makes for a very unconvincing action heroine, as we've seen in Jupiter Ascending. And it's a shame because Linda Hamilton and Mackenzie Davis, who Natalia Reyes' character takes screen time away from, well, they're so good. And Hamilton is amazing from the moment she enters the story. In fact, at my press screening, they had a couple of people in there who were fans, and there was a woman sitting next to me, and she was a little distracting because this woman, they had all the fans sit in the first 3 rows, which in an IMAX obviously are not great seats. But the problem was that when the movie started, a lot of them came back to go and fill in the holes for the press seats. And I guess if they were going to do that, they should have been allowed to do that before the movie started, because it was very distracting to have people coming through the rows, because it's an IMAX theater, it's hard to move around in there, while the movie was playing. But I forgave this woman because she was so happy to see Linda Hamilton on screen. She had the best reaction in the entire theater, and I haven't seen a woman react that way to another woman on screen since I saw also at a press screening. And it was also, so this is why they have the audience filler, right? Because these reactions had a very strong impression on me when a woman reacted to Black Widow's opening fight scene in Civil War and fought along with her, like the ooh and ah and the, oh my gosh, it was great. Both times. It really meant a lot to me. And Sarah Connor is back in this movie. She is back. And in addition to holding her own in the action scenes, I loved the sad irony of her not having a picture of John so the machines wouldn't know what he looked like. But that also meant years after his death, she was forgetting what he looked like. And that's amazing because, of course, the picture of her was so important, not just to the plot of the first movie, but also just emotionally to Kyle Reese and to her son. Wow! And the more I think about it, while I do feel that the commentary on U.S.-Mexico relations was strong and effective here, it took time away from developing these characters and the Terminator story, which is very simple. It's man's complicated relationship with machine. That's what they should have just focused on, which again is why I feel that the beat at the beginning about robots taking over jobs did fit in with that. Then as for Arnold, like Sarah Connor herself, I just couldn't forgive him for killing John. I just couldn't do it, which is a shame considering how much we came to care for him as the T800 and T2. So that robbed me of any emotional connection to his T800 here, and I felt nothing when he sacrificed himself, which I guess maybe brought me closer to Sarah Connor. I felt maybe a passing feeling of justice for John, but the whole thing I felt was just sad and a waste, which maybe also is kind of how Sarah Connor felt at this point. I did like her line where she says, "I kill Terminators and then I pass out. I drink till I pass out." That was a great line. I did enjoy some of Arnold's jokes here, though. I liked when he got shot in the chest by Linda Hamilton, I think. And then he was like, "This will be difficult to hide from Linda." I think that was Carl's wife's name, as I can recall. I like how in all the credits for the movie, she's just credited as Carl's wife. I'm like, she had a name. I also liked when he was talking about how he was arguing with a customer at his curtains business about how somebody wanted to, blasphemy, put solid curtains in a child's room. And he was like, "You must use a pattern." I thought that was funny. I mean, these were good jokes. It made a good sitcom, Terminator Stepdad. But you know what? That's not what I came to see. And T2, by the way, is so good that I still hope that someday, and I guess that person is not James Cameron. We all thought he was going to be, talk about Terminator Jesus. We thought he was going to save Terminator, but I guess it's up to someone else. I hope someone still comes and does a good job continuing that story. I'd like to see where it goes. Linda Hamilton and grown-up Dani Dyson. It writes itself. Apparently not, though, actually. I mean, that's so obvious what the movie should be. So that's my spoiler review of Terminator Dark Fate. I'm curious to hear your thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.